Hello. Grown conversation about Carlee Russell and U.S. Army serviceman Travis King. And I chose this background because I wanted to remind myself that even though I could have put up the life and death background, I want to say what I have to say here with love because both of those situations, these are young people who are at least 15 years my junior, probably 20, closer to 20. Carlee Russell presumably was kidnapped. She received the kind of attention that Black women rarely get when kidnappings happen. Now, the police do not believe any kidnapping occurred, and the preponderance of the evidence suggests that the kindest way for us to believe this is that she had some kind of mental break, but it is also increasingly possible that she lied. So we have a Jussie Smollett situation. And I was walking in the park today thinking about how was I going to address this. I've said before on the air, this is not the time for Black women to be so thinking that they are so far ahead of Black men. I said that a lot of things you see Black men going through in America and being shut out of things and falling back in some ways, we're only tracking them about 10 years behind. How long has it been since Jussie Smollett did the foolishness that he did? Not even 10 years. And now we have a Black woman comparable case, except that it may be because a man left her. So she has engaged thousands, if not millions, of people's attention, millions of dollars in community resources, exposed her family to humiliation. And hers is a very well to do family where they live. And that's never easy for Black people to get to that level. And she's exposed them to humiliation, perhaps over. And this is not to say that I was a young woman once and I know what it's like when you don't have the perspective to understand that there are 4 billion men in the world. And if one doesn't work out, another one will come along. I understand that. I was a young woman once. But we have here someone who has chosen, well, let me back up and talk about Travis King. I was shocked today to find out he was a Black man about that same age. Turns out that he may have tipped across the border to North Korea because he needed to allegedly avoid, he had to get to a country that did not have extradition. What was in his future, allegedly, were assault charges. I'm not going to speculate because I didn't look it up who he may have assaulted. But in a situation where Black men kill Black men 25 times a day and Black women 4 times a day, and the high preponderance of violence, I have to think to myself, whatever the situation was, his future in the army, if he was convicted, was going to be dishonorable discharge. And just the taint of that on his record. In the same way that Carlee Russell, I believe, was in nursing school, and she's not going to be able to continue the same way Stockton Rush, the captain of the Titan, his eyesight may not have been the reason. To be an Army officer, which was the fastest way to become an astronaut, because you'll go all the way up and then go through NASA, you have to have an absolutely spotless high school record, and he didn't. The stuff he did got him eliminated from a lot of paths that he would have ordinarily gone on. Carlee Russell has done that to herself, and Travis King, with that potential assault, if that is true, had done that to himself. These are two young Black people who received some check in their life, behaved inappropriately, and perhaps could have fixed it. So it's a temporary problem of their own creation, but instead chose a permanent solution that is going to have them in trouble that they can't even comprehend at their age. As I said on a previous video, when you're Stockton Rush and you have 12 million and you get to play around with people that have a billion or more, it can take longer to catch up with you. That's a big safety net. It took him till age 61 for him to implode his life. Carlee and Travis are not out of their 20s. They have just imploded their lives. In Travis King's case, he has some terrible decisions to make. Presumably, North Korea is one of the most comfortable for defectors, but for him to have a comfortable life there, he has to betray his oath to his nation in order to do that. I'm trying to figure out how much contempt does he have for his own family and for whoever it was that he assaulted, that would even be on the table. If he doesn't understand that's how to work, North Korea doesn't love black folks. South Korea doesn't either, really. Um, South Korea and the United States have certain agreements. When Koreans come here to open up hair shops, it's because the United States has a treaty agreement with South Korea. That's one of the very few groups of people, and I'm not saying all Koreans are like this as individuals, but they receive a certain amount of money to come here and use us as chattel, black women in particular. But if you see me as a chattel, you probably don't see my brother as much better. Because here's the thing about a South Korean man. He's using his resources to provide for his woman. So if he can come in and take over your neighborhood, he doesn't think of you as much of a man. If he's making money in your neighborhood and you're not, black men don't own the institution. There ain't no respect there. So you gonna go to North Korea from here and not know all that? So he has to come to himself and be loyal, in which case he's really not going to fare well at all. Or he has to become a complete traitor, not only to whoever it was that he allegedly hurt, not only to the uh, country that he serves, to his own family, everybody. This is a permanent solution and a bad one. It's a doubling down on having done something wrong and made it permanent. Consequences not even comprehensible from here. There's no way that this man has foreseen what he has done to his life. I'm sure Carlee Russell. I hope that it turns out to be it's a mental break, but the preponderance of the evidence is now just moving toward a straight lie. Neither of them can even comprehend at their age what they have just done. Even at 42, it's impossible for me to foresee the magnitude of what has just happened. And what worries me the most is that we have young people. These people are young. They did not see anything engaging enough. They did not see that they had their lives to lose in these decisions. Travis King in particular. But let me go back to something I said before. I told you black men and black women and black men are tracking each other. And see, this is why I feel, as a middle-aged woman now, I feel very grieved when I hear people 60 and older still talking about, well, we can solve the problems in the community if we just come together. No, nope, mm-mm. Not as we are without facing Travis King and Carlee Russell. No, we can't. Because if we have a lot of people that are willing to sell everything they have down the road at this stage of the game, they have so little to lose that they literally are making decisions that have imploded, going to implode their entire lives. There is a way out, but it has to come to terms with, okay, what is the check that you got that you behaved inappropriately to start with that led to this? In other words, what caused Carlee Russell to just choose to, what caused the mental break, or what caused her to decide that it was necessary to make up this elaborate story? What happened? Why did she respond that way? What did she need to do with it? Confession and repentance is in order from a Christian perspective. Does she understand? Is she capable of understanding? Because it could be a mental break. How do we heal that? Travis King could be a mental break. People do sometimes break. Sometimes people get into situations. They're young. Don't have perspective. He may have a very long time to consider it under adverse circumstances. What happened? What is the hard truth that these two individuals refused to accept and ran their lives over the edge running from? And see, until we as Black people can get to the point where we are willing to look at each of ourselves, see, It's past time for black women to be blaming black men for everything. No, no, no. Your daughters are about to get snatched up off the street at rates they never were before, and it's bad enough as it is. We take the numbers for Chicago, and rates they never were before, because the predators have now all gotten the news that nobody's going to be able to pay attention. Nobody's going to be willing to pay attention and put resources in it because of Carlee Russell. Gentlemen, your sons are betraying their whole nation if the story is true. Your sons are in position where they can get a free education. It's one of the very few places that many poorer people of color can. Your sons are out here betraying their community and betraying their entire, all the way up their families, their communities, and all the way up to your own nation. That's not black women's fault. That's something that black men have to address among themselves, just like we need to sit down with our daughters and have real conversation. Until we can, there is no point in getting Travis King and Carlee Russell together. They can't help each other. And we're not going to be able to do anything for each other. Even if you see each other as, well, and I have people that listen to me that are only ministering to black women. And I might have a few people listening to me still who really are only interested in black men. Fine. But unless we become honest about what we're dealing with, if our 20 somethings in the black community are in a position where this is the decision making process, we're going to meet some check in life. We're going to behave in a criminal fashion, or we're going to meet a romantic check in life. We're going to have such a break that we are going to mess up the generation before us and the generation after us. We're going to then betray everything. If this is where we are, I am not saying this in order to condemn. This is why I have this particular graphic up. There is nothing that I could say or do that can even measure up to the measure that this woman and this man have measured out to themselves with these decisions. There's nothing I can measure to measure it out, because something that people don't think about, the military is kind of precarious right now. You have senators holding up 250, 350 appointments because they're mad about uh, service people being able to travel across state lines to get abortions. The question of whether or not certain ethnic groups are stable enough to do military service, you don't think about that being something that comes up. But if Travis King goes over here and betrays his nation like this, he'll be made a poster child. We know that about 27% of the United States military, roughly the Confederacy, is basically sitting in the United States military, greater than a quarter. We can know this. So there's enough people when General Milley's generation dies back a little bit. There's enough people in there so that when they get to be officer class, people will be making decisions that are not favorable toward African Americans. It's entirely possible that that can happen. That's still only 20 years out. So when Carlee Russell and Travis King are about my age, that can be their reality. Did they think about any of this? No. I have to think about it. I suggest that we need to think about it. I'm sad. I'm deeply concerned. I work with a lot of young people who are now in their the oldest, because I was a grown woman when she was still an early teenager, is now 35. I'm 42. That just tells you how long I've been doing this. I like to think that before they did anything absolutely desperate, that they knew that they could call me and that I would do my best to help them. I'm actually working on some things to provide a little assistance to a young person I know right now. Carlee Russell and Travis King had no one who they felt could speak into their lives a reason to get through whatever they get through, go through the aftermath, and keep on living as a member of the society they were born into. They had no one. That means people who are our age, 42 and upwards, they have parents who love them. They have grandparents who love them, aunts and uncles. Maybe I don't know as much about the King family, but something is missing in our community. Do we even have a community? That's a different video. I'm going to say this for a third time, and I've said it on other videos. Black women, I know we want to talk about, how much better we're doing with black men. No, your life is in more danger than it was yesterday. And the behavior of our sisters and our daughters is tracking that of black men. All the money from Goldman Sachs in the world is not going to make the least bit of difference about that unless we choose to stop it. I would have to say we really need to talk to our daughters and our sisters about not having that. True Mystique did a post about how, black women are out here idolizing men in a lot of different circumstances. This does seem to be one of those extreme situations of that in Carlee Russell's case. We do need to get over that. That's something for us to work on. Stop making men your God. There's probably another video for me to do on that. But we've got work to do. It's time out for trying to look down on black men. I have said it before and I'm going to say it one more time because most of you listening to me are women. We are tracking them within 5 to 10 years. The things that are being done in American society to deselect black men are now going to begin to start on us. Between Black Lives Matter and $90 million that walked off and has nothing to show for it, was a whole bunch of houses for Patrice Concooler's friends. Between and that and Carlee Russell, there's about to be problems here for us. Because the same people who come down with their foot hard on black men don't love us either. Gentlemen, I don't need trouble to tell you the trouble that you're in. Crime stats from 2020 say you're in 6 times as much trouble. It's not black women's fault. You're going to have to pull together and figure out how you put your arms around the Travis Kings of your family who feel like they have nothing to lose either. And nothing better to do than to throw away their entire life having to assault somebody they don't need to assault and then betraying not only that person in their own family, but the whole nation. When black men grow up to sell drugs and guns and get in order to make a profit for themselves, that's basically the same thing. That's the same thing, just different couching terms. And that's something black men have to acknowledge for themselves, having to find a value in themselves. It's, it's another video, but it's just like, and if you can't find it here, interestingly, black men and women of mature age, Stephanie Perry and Attorney Dennis Sperling are the same age, more or less. I think Miss Perry has Attorney Sperling beat by maybe a year. And they're both saying the same thing. Get out of here. If you need to leave, leave. Both of them are saying, be of service when you get where you're going. Attorney Sperling talks about being able to start a business doing import business. He has talked about that. Now, I don't endorse him, but I noticed that there's kind of a parallel track. He is today, a more sensible advisor. Yesterday, that's a whole nother subject. But today, a more sensible advisor on how you do well. Actually, I don't know about today. I haven't listened to him for years, but he's given sensible advice. And if you really listen to the advice the more mature members of the manosphere give about how black men should start over somewhere else, and the advice that Stephanie Perry, Adelia Borishade, and Rashida Dow give, other than the fact that the men are basically focused on having sex with other types of women, Dennis Burley, to his credit, is engaged to a singular individual, to his credit. Um, Men's sex drive is higher than ours. Some of that is to be expected. They both are talking about we may not be able to heal here, so stop trying and leave. That's what they're saying. We cannot get Travis King and Carlee Russell together. There's nothing they can do together that would be positive. They're not equipped to do so. Maybe the nation is not equipped. I don't know if I can be that extreme. I just observe it. I observe Travis King. I observe Carlee Russell. I observe Stephanie Perry, and I used to observe Attorney Dennis Burley. And if you look at those two generations, they're basically both saying we're not going to make it together. Carlee and Travis are basically like we're not going to make it. Period. We have just blown up our entire lives in this culture. I wish I had an answer for you. I don't. I know what I was called to do in the community that I serve. And by the time you see this, I will be on my way to a meeting to make sure that 5 generations of Black elders are able to get some things that they need today. And as I'm going, I will be looking for people to contact me about what I'm doing for a certain Black person, actually 2 of them Black people in their 20s and 30s, to help them make sure that they get over the gaps that they need to get over. All I can do is what I can do. I don't have a mass solution. I'm one person. But I put this out to us with the encouragement. Ladies, self-defense, situational awareness, the need for that has just gone up a lot. No one is coming for us. No one was coming for us before. Now we're going to be pushing negative numbers. Having people account for where you're going to be and when you're going to be there and when you plan on returning. Well, I'm independent and I don't need anybody knowing about all that. No, no, no. This is your life now. Carlee Russell has kicked the safety net out from underneath us. What little flimsy netting there was is now gone. Accept it and move accordingly. Tell your daughters and your granddaughters. Make sure they understand. Confidence with love and chicks with triggers would tell you it's time for some of us to go ahead and invest in our weaponry as well. Or at least, in my case, non-lethal self-defense, at least as a start, while San Francisco works out its legal situations. Um, but maybe next year. Maybe next year. But I'm doing what I can for right now. I practice a lot of situational awareness. I'm plot the ways that I go, who I go with, what transportation I take, what neighborhoods. I've been doing that anyway. I have to do a little bit more now. You think 42 and heavy? No, I'm still good looking enough for somebody's fetish. It is what it is. Gentlemen, if I could encourage you to get with honorable men and study them, I'm going to mention another name that I've got to remember to add. Myron Golden will help you learn how to take your eyes off of all this other stuff that makes men think they're just victims and they can't do anything and they have to take that out on women and all the rest. He will get your eyes off of that. However, I will say this about Myron Goldman. Golden, not Goldman. He is a Black man who is unapologetically 2 things. Forget the manosphere. Mm-mm. This man says things about, yeah, I pay for a maid service because even though my wife enjoys cooking and cleaning, it's not the proper use of her time. I can spend more time with her if I pay for that. He also is unabashedly a Christian, so that if you come at him with excuses about why everybody else is responsible for you not getting where you go, you're not going to make it through 5 minutes with Myron Golden. On the other hand, he can teach you how to live like a millionaire on $60,000 and even how to get it, how to break it down. For those that are interested, if I don't remember, because I got to get to a board meeting, if I don't remember to add him, Myron Golden. You can Google it. I want y'all to win. I said that recently. But like I said, when I found out Travis King was a black man, my heart went to my toes. Because I'm like, oh, we're all done if this is what the next generation is looking at. The men and the women. It's over. We're done as a community if this is how it's gonna be. So I'm putting out what I can so that those of us around can do the things we can around us. I am concerned. I'm not without hope because I'm about to go do what I need to do today. And with more in mind that I'm doing everything I can to prevent it from being that people around me think that there's no hope and then do something desperate. And I'm hoping that you will at least be in mind of that fact. And if that is you, reach out to someone before you do something stupid. Don't feel the need to implode, even if you need to put a comment on. I'll be back later today. I'll do my best to find you some to let you know where's the resources. The therapy and life coaching resources will be in the description of this video. And if I don't get to it before the board meeting, they'll be there afterwards. Or you can kind of go back over some previous videos and get them in there. I wish I could do more. I'm one person. But I do what I can. All right. Y'all have a good day now. Probably will not be back today because I'm sure I'll be exhausted when I get home. We'll see what happens. Have a good night now. Goodbye. No, it's daytime where you are. I gotta go to bed. Bye. Thank you for listening.